Hi, this is Gail Nowak, and this is my self-assessment for interview and counseling. And this is for my video submission that I did for week 1. I'm not sure if this is supposed to be a video or if this is supposed to be on a form. I wasn't too clear on that, so I decided to do a video submission. So my self-assessment for the first video that we did was, I'm going to just read off of the client submission form and see and just kind of score myself. So the session helped you understand the issue, opportunity, or problem more fully for my client. I think that I did help them with their problem. His problem was not being able to complete his tasks at school during his prep periods because his prep periods were getting taken away from the administration because most of the teachers were absent, so he had to cover classes. So that is why his prep periods were taken away, which means he couldn't prep at school. He either had to do it after school or take his work home with him. So we were trying to work that out and try to see if there was some kind of way that we could have a better work-life balance or work-home balance because it was affecting his home life. The interviewer listened to you or felt heard. I believe that I did listen good to my client, and that I hopefully had made him feel heard. In his assessment, he said that I made him feel heard and that I did listen, so that's good. You gained a better understanding of yourself today. He did say that he did get a better understanding of himself today. You learned about your different ways to address your issues, opportunity, or problem. We did address his opportunities and problems. I do think that I did a good job at discussing that. I also dived into a little bit to his anxiety issues. Just because he was experiencing anxiety at work. I didn't dive into it fully. That was something that he did put in the assessment that he wishes that we dived into that a little bit more. So he does have anxiety at work. We discussed medications. He is taking a medication currently, but he can only take one per day because or else it makes him feel too tired, and it makes him not functional throughout the day. So he can't take more than one. So at this point, that's not really an option for any further medications at this point. So we're maxed out on that. So I mentioned maybe a meditation app. He did say at the very end of the survey at the end that he wanted to explore better coping skills or coping strategies for coping with anxiety at work. So I'm hoping that maybe if we meet again, we can discuss that further. See whether or not we can discuss things maybe further on. Maybe a meditation app would work better for him on his lunch break or something when there are no students around, or maybe even after school when he is doing his prepping or grading papers or something like that. Maybe he could do a meditation app that makes him calm down a little bit. We'll discuss that at a future date though. This interview helps identify strengths and resources that help you work through the concerns and issues. I believe we did do that. Interviewer allowed you to identify specific areas in need of further development to cope more effectively with your concerns and issues. I do believe we did that as well. You will take action and do something in terms of changing your thinking, feeling, or behavior after this session. I do believe that we did that as well. We identified something that would be helpful is the client that we had today has an intern. So that was something that I mentioned. Maybe the intern could take on some of the tasks for my client so that they don't feel so bogged down. That way, maybe the intern could prep the laboratory, or maybe take on some paperwork, or maybe take on some grading. That way, it's not all on my client to do all of that work. Maybe they could push some of the work onto the intern so that they could go ahead and alleviate some of that stress off of my client. And you will create a plan of action to facilitate change after the session. Yes, we will. And let's see here. And they had asked, what did you find helpful? And then they had asked, what if anything did the interviewer miss that you would have liked to explore today? That was the anxiety. They wanted to explore more coping strategies for anxiety. So overall, I think I did pretty well for my first time. The only issue that I came across so far was that I stumbled upon my words once. I had to take a moment to regain my train of thought. I lost my train of thought during one part of the session, so I had to take a moment to regain my train of thought. There was one part of the session where I thought my client said depression and anxiety, but he only said anxiety, so I had addressed depression and anxiety, and he was like, "Nope, I didn't say depression. I just said anxiety." So I apologized and said, "I'm so sorry. I thought you said depression and anxiety. So we'll stick with just anxiety. I do apologize." He seemed very understanding. And then the very last part was my daughter walked in at the very end of our session, so that was another problem, but I apologize for that. But overall, I think I did a pretty decent job for my first time. And I also did the informed consent at the beginning. And I also did the contract as well with him before before the video started. So he signed the contract before the video started and dated it, and we read through it together. So I just wanted to let you know that as well. But thank you very much and have a great day. Bye.